the atheists, the evolutionists, the reason why they're not going to believe your Christian belief is because it's not science, they'll argue. In other words, you can't put God and the Holy Spirit and all that. I cannot put this through a scientific experiment and test if it's true. I cannot scientifically test Jesus dying on the cross or the Holy Spirit living inside me. See, they claim that, I cannot believe until it is scientifically experimented. Their faith lies upon, if it is scientifically proven, then I can believe in Christianity. But here's the problem, okay? When they bring up that argument, they got to realize this. That's not a fair question. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because do you know what the word science means? Science means, if you look up in any dictionary, all right? Mr. Intelligent Person. If you look up in the dictionary, science is the testing and the experiment of the physical things of this universe. Right. That's why. Okay? You can't put God and the Holy Spirit in a test tube and disprove the existence of God and all that. You know why? Because they're not physical. They're not in this universe. Duh. I'm sorry. You see that? I'm sorry I have to talk like this, okay? I have to talk like this because they don't even look at a preschool dictionary on what the word science means. Nope. That's a silly argument to disprove God, to disprove Christianity, because it cannot be scientifically experimented. Of course, stupid! Because science relates to the physical things of this universe. Right. God's a spirit. But I can argue this. Here's what they got to realize. They got to realize that, look at 1 Corinthians 2. First, look at 1 Corinthians 2. 1 Corinthians 2. The Bible even showed you that. Here's one thing I can use on those atheists or liberals, because they argue about being broad-minded, right? Don't be narrow-minded. Don't stick to your own one view. You have to be broad-minded, open-minded about all kinds of different beliefs. Well, isn't it narrow-minded and bigoted of them that they put all their belief on something physical and they're not open-minded and about the belief of something outside of physical, something spiritual? You see that Christians are actually more broad-minded and open-minded than liberal atheists and evolutionists. You see that? Because evolutionists and atheists, they only believe in, well, unless it's science, then I won't believe in anything. Well, aren't they narrow-minded and bigoted? Because what we do is that we don't just believe in something science, physical, that's it. We also believe in any road outside of something physical, something spiritual. Look at 1 Corinthians 2. We'll look at verse 14. Verse 14. But the natural man, so that's the natural, everyday, ordinary man, all right? Receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God. See, a typical ordinary human who keeps thinking on natural or physical things, he's not going to receive something spiritual of God. Do you know why? Because it says, for they are foolishness unto him. It's going to look foolish unto him. Neither can he know them. He's not going to even know them. You know why? Because they are scientifically discerned. No, because they are what? Spiritually discerned. An evolutionary atheist can never believe with you if he keeps thinking science, science, science. It has to be spiritually discerned. You know why? Because science can only go to the physical realm. That's it. The physical universe. Not something spiritual. Nothing outside of it. You see that? They don't look at what's rational. They don't look at what's philosophical. They don't look at what's historical. They don't look at all the other options. All they look at is science. That's it. Yeah. But here's what I can argue, though, okay? Science, it would support more on Christianity than evolution. Yes. Do you know why? I'll tell you why, okay? I'll tell you why, okay? Because here's the thing. Evolution, all right, no matter how much scientific experiments you do, you cannot get in a lab experiment, okay, right in front of your face where you see it and experiment and test it where evolution comes out. You can't do that at all. You can't do that at all. If you were to take science and to put a lab experiment and do it, you know what you will do? What it will prove is not the element by itself doing it, but prove an intelligent designer had to put it all into place. So what you're going to find out is this science, it may not prove right up front God and the Holy Spirit, but neither does it do that with evolution either. See? There is no lab experiment where you can do that right in front of your face where the substance evolved by itself. Or God creating the substance and to make it created. You can't do that. But what the scientific experiment can prove is this. The scientific experiment, what it can prove is this, is that it can prove that there's something intelligent that had to make the substance, rather than the substance doing it by itself.
Right.
That's what it can prove. So guess what that supports? That supports more on creationism than evolution. That's what science will prove.
Amen.
Now, if you doubt me, okay, then I'm going to give you some examples, okay? Now, you can't argue that the substance did it by itself, but through evolution. You have to argue for an intelligent designer. There is absolutely no doubt. The wings of a hummingbird. Quote, "The ruby-throated hummingbird beats its wings at an incredibly rapid speed, 50 to 70 times a second. It requires an immense amount of energy to do that. If a 170-pound, which is related to 77 kilograms, man expended energy at the rate of the hummingbird, he would have to eat and digest 285 pounds of hamburger, or twice his weight in potatoes each day, in order to maintain his weight. In addition, he would have to evaporate 100 pounds, 45 kilograms of perspiration per hour, to keep his temperature below the boiling point of water." Now, if you argue that the hummingbird did that by itself, it would have had several heart attacks already.
Yeah.
It would never make it. Let's be honest, okay? It'd never even make it. But if you argue that somebody already put all of that into place at one shot already,
Yeah. There you go.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Oxygen and molecules. Quote, "While oxygen is necessary for life, free oxygen would oxidize and thus destroy all organic molecules required for the origin of life. But on the other hand, if there were no oxygen there would be no ozone. The deadly destructive ultraviolet light from the sun would pour down on the surface of the earth unimpeded, destroying those organic molecules required for life, reducing them to simple gases such as nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and water. Thus, evolutionists face an irresolvable dilemma, which is still the thorn on their side today, actually. In the presence of oxygen, life could not evolve. Without oxygen, thus no ozone, life could not evolve or exist." Now, you know what they argue? They argue this, okay? What they argue is that if there is oxygen in our world, you know what would happen? It would ruin organic molecules required for life, see, if oxygen was present. But you gotta think about this. Okay, let's take out the oxygen then, okay? That way the organic molecules can survive. If you take out the oxygen, you know what you do? You take out the ozone layer. And when you take out the ozone layer, the light is going to kill those organic molecules. So you know what you need to do? You need to somehow put that organic molecule, that life, into place with the oxygen, with the ozone layer, all at one shot.
Yeah.
See that? Now, how are you going to solve that? Definitely proves you have to have a God there.
Yeah.
You have to put it all at one shot. You can't say, give it enough time. No, even if you had time, you can't even do that, okay? You have to put it all in one shot, just like, boom, immediately. You have to do that. Here's another one, the jumping precision of gobies. Now, this is funny, okay? How evolutionists try to rationalize this. Gobies are small fish which, during low tides, like to swim in rock pools on the edge of the ocean. One species, Bathygobius, enjoys jumping from one tidal pool over rocks exposed above the water into another rock pool on the other side. Researchers finally became intrigued by this habit and decided to investigate. They discovered that this little fellow always jumps just the right amount at the right place and in the right direction without ever landing on rock. How can this fish know where to leap out of the water and in what direction? It cannot see from one rock pool to the next. Surely, it does not have the location and shapes of all the rock pools pre-memorized in its tiny heads. Although much of the area around a pool is exposed rock, with no nearby pools beyond it, yet the goby always jumps at exactly just the right place. Unless some intelligent designer already put that all into the head of the goby, so he would know where to jump from one rock pool to the other without ever landing on the rock. Unless that happened. But here's how the scientists have guessed. This is funny. The scientists, because they refused to have an intelligent designer who put all that knowledge already in the goby, they argue that the fish had to evolve and learn by itself, right? So this is how they argue. They guessed that perhaps when the tide earlier came in and covered all the rocks, the fish swam around and memorized all the bumps and hollows on the rock, and thus later know where to do its jumping.
Okay.
That fish is really intelligent compared to your IQ and mine. Wow! Wow, do you honestly believe that? Can you actually believe that? Come on.
Oh yeah.
Only a fool would believe that. Only a fool would. There is no God, see?
Yeah.
So you have to put God.
That's right.
Here's another one. Now, we only went through 3 cases, brethren. If you study all the complexities of the universe, you would be a fool in the end to say there is no God.
That's right. That's right.
No matter how much time you give or how much you gave the miracles of it evolving by itself, it's very impossible unless somebody already put everything into place in one shot already.
That's right.
No wonder when God said, let there be light, it was all in one shot. Yeah. Let there be light. Not like through process of time and then, oh, don't give me that.
No.
All right, amino acids and DNA. Quote, further of vital significance, the amino acids in proteins today are exclusively left-handed. But all amino acids on the primitive Earth would be 50% left-handed and 50% right-handed. The sugars in DNA and RNA today are exclusively right-handed, but if they did exist, sugars on a primitive Earth would have been 50% right-handed and 50% left-handed. If just one right-handed amino acid is in a protein, or just one left-handed sugar is found in a DNA or RNA, all biological activity is destroyed. There would be no mechanism available on a primitive Earth to select the correct form. Now, do you know how many amino acids and things there are in your DNA and RNA? Thousands and a lot. So if just one of them was in the wrong area, like let's say this guy was right-handed when it's supposed to be left-handed, it killed all biological life. Now, I don't care how much time you give or coincidences you give, no way you can do that with the billions of it. Yeah. Unless you say someone so intelligent put it all in the right place already in the one shot. The wonder of the human eye. Now, just reading this shows that evolution cannot happen no matter what. Okay? You're not going to understand even 3/4 of this quote. Quote, when light first strikes the retina, a photon interacts with a molecule called 11-cis-retinol, which rearranges within picoseconds to transretinal. The change in the shape of retinol forces a change in the shape of the protein, rhodopsin, to which the retinol is tightly bound. The protein's metaphorosis alters its behavior, making it stick to another protein called transducin. Before bumping into activated rhodopsin, transducin had tightly bound a small molecule called GTP. But when transducin interacts with activated rhodopsin, the GTP falls off and a molecule called GTP binds to transducin. GTP is closely related to but critically different from GDP. GTP, transducin activated rhodopsin, now binds to a protein called phosphodiesterase, whatever it is, located in the inner membrane of the cell. When attached to activated rhodopsin and its entourage, the phosphodiesterase acquires the ability to chemically cut a molecule called cGMP, a chemical relative of both GDP and GTP. Initially, there are a lot of cGMP molecules in the cell, but the phosphodiesterase lowers its concentration like a pulled plug lowers the water level in a bathtub. Another membrane protein that binds cGMP is called an ion channel. It acts as a gateway that regulates the number of sodium ions in the cell. Normally, the ion channel allows sodium ions to flow into the cell, while a separate protein actively pumps them out again. The dual action of the ion channel and pump keeps the level of sodium ions in the cell within a narrow range. When the amount of cGMP is reduced because of cleavage by the phosphodiesterase, the ion channel closes, causing the cellular concentration, are you bored? Did you get lost just now? Of positively charged sodium ions to be reduced. This causes an imbalance of charge across the cell membrane, which finally causes a current to be transmitted down the optic nerve to the brain. The result, when interpreted by the brain, is vision. All at one shot. And you're telling me that it had to be by evolution? Yeah, pure accident, brother. Unless you say a supernatural, purely intelligent designer put it all into one place. What makes more sense?
That's right, nothing.
See, we don't even have to argue about anything against evolution, see? All you have to do is just study nature itself. That's why Romans 1, 24 to 27 already told you. All you need to do is study the nature of the universe, and you realize there has to be a God. We don't have to go through scientific terminologies, argue all these points. All you have to do is look at nature. That's why heathen pagans, who didn't know any better, their dumb minds even realized there had to be a God. Unless you go through the educated schools, you're too stupid enough to see that there is no God.
That's right. That's right.
Charles Darwin, he confessed that the evolution of the human eye is absurd because of that. Quote, to suppose that the eyes, with all its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different distances, for emitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection, seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree.
That's right.
Do you believe there is a God?
Amen.
What do you think science supports more? Evolution in its working by itself, or an intelligent designer who put it all into place in one shot? See, it doesn't change the fact science still supports Christianity far more.
Amen.